Hello students, today I will be teaching about the topic examination of body cavity fluid. This topic is for BSc second year and it is from pathology. So let us see what the lab testing of various body fluids means. Okay, so lab testing can be performed on many types of fluids. It can be sputum, it can be peritoneal fluid or pericardial fluid or pleural fluid or any other fluids that coming out of the body other than the blood. Often these fluids are tested instead of the blood because they give more direct answers to what may be going on in a particular body or what the patient is suffering. So there are some body fluids which includes the urinalysis. Okay, that is the checking for the urine color, the urine specific gravity, okay, about the characteristics of urine. Next is the semen analysis, where we check about the semen. Then sweat chloride, fetal fibronectin, amniotic fluid analysis, CS, cerebrospinal fluid analysis, synovial fluid analysis, pleural fluid analysis, pericardial fluid analysis, and peritoneal fluid analysis. So these are some of the body fluid analysis. So before going into the lab investigations or lab testings of the body fluids, just a clear information about what the difference between transudate and exudate. Okay, so these are fluids which are being produced from the body. So transudate, first, it is caused by an imbalance between pressure within the blood vessels and the amount of protein in the blood. So when the pressure between the blood vessels and the pressure with the amount of protein, when there is an imbalance, okay, one is low and one is high, then transudate will be released. Okay, transudate is a fluid which is being released. It is a clear fluid with low protein concentration and a limited number of WBC cells. So transudate will consist of low protein. Okay, and there will be a limited number of WBCs, and the color is clear fluid. It is seen in conditions such as congestive heart failure and cirrhosis. Okay, then that is about transudate. And exudate is caused by if there's any injury or inflammation in the body. Okay, so a fluid will be produced. We call it as exudate. It has a higher normal protein content. So the protein levels are very high in exudate and the color is cloudy because of the increased number of cells. So here the protein concentration is very high and the WBC cells also are very high. Okay, so that is why the color is cloudy in color, and these are all exudates. There are seen in infections, malignancies like cancer, lymphoma, mesothelioma, or any autoimmune disease. So this is the difference between transudate and exudate. I hope this is clear. These are fluids which are being produced by the body. Okay, so first analysis is the sweat chloride analysis. Okay, so sweat chloride test is a common and a simple test which is used to evaluate the patient who is suspected for having cystic fibrosis. The cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease. Okay, and here this is it is a very dangerous genetic disease, and this test will detect whether the patient is positive for cystic fibrosis. So the sweat test measures the amount of chloride in sweat. Okay, so that is why it's called sweat chloride analysis. Why? Because we are checking the amount of chloride in the sweat. Children with cystic fibrosis can have 2 or 5 times the normal amount of chloride in their sweat. Okay, so children suffering from cystic fibrosis, they will have a normal amount of chloride in their sweat. Okay, in a sweat test, the skin is stimulated to produce enough sweat to be absorbed into the special collector, and then it is analyzed. So that in order for the sweat to come out, okay, we have to stimulate in the skin. Okay, so we have to give something in the skin so that the sweat will come out and we will be able to collect. So getting the results are usually available in 1 to 2 days. Okay, after the lab test, 1 to 2 days we will get the report, and if the child has sweat chloride level of more than 60 millimoles per liter, then it is considered as abnormal. Means that the patient is having cystic fibrosis. Though some children with CF do have borderline or even normal sweat chloride level. So if the chloride level is very high, that is more than 60 uh, mmol per liter, then we can say that patient is having cystic fibrosis. Okay. Next, a positive sweat chloride test will indicate if the test is positive, then we can say that the patient or the infant or the person is cystic fibrosis. Okay? And the positive sweat chloride tests are typically repeated for verification, not only once, but we will do it twice or thrice. A negative sweat chloride test means that it is unlikely the person tested has CF. So if it comes out negative, then the patient does not have cystic fibrosis. But if it is positive and it is more than 60 mmol per liter, then we should detect for cystic fibrosis, and we should do not only once, but we should do the test twice or thrice, just for verification. So that was about sweat chloride test. Okay, next we come to the amniotic fluid analysis. Okay, so amniocentesis you've all heard. Okay, so amniotic fluid is a fluid which surrounds, protects, and nourishes the fetus inside the mother's womb during pregnancy. Amniotic fluid analysis, it involves a variety of tests, and this is done to check the health of the fetus, whether the fetus is healthy or not. The amount of amniotic fluid increases over time, and it is constantly being absorbed and removed. Okay, so the amniotic fluid, okay, it will help to evaluate the health of the fetus. Amniotic fluid protects the developing baby by cushioning against the blows to the mother's abdomen. Means that it protects and nourishes the fetus. It allows for easier fetal movement, and it promotes muscular or skeletal development. Amniotic fluid, which is swallowed by the fetus, helps in the formation of the GI tract. An AFI between amniotic fluid index, okay, AFI is amniotic fluid index between 8 to 18 is considered as normal. So that is the normal range. Okay, median AFI level is approximately 14 from the 20 weeks to 35 weeks. When the amniotic fluid begins to reduce, okay, the amniotic fluid, it will reduce when the patient is ready for birth, for normal delivery of a cesarean section. And AFI less than 5 to 6 is considered as oligohydramnion. And if AFI is more than 18, then it is considered as polyhydramnion. Okay, so the normal range of AFI should be 8 to 18. Next, coming to pleural effusion analysis. Pleural effusion is a collection of fluid. Okay, what is pleural effusion? You have studied in respiratory system. Okay, so pleural effusion is collection of fluid in the pleural space of the lung. It is a primary disease process, but in other disease conditions can also cause pleural effusion. The pleural space normally contains about 10 to 20 ml of serous fluid. Okay, so that is a normal. Okay, in the pleural space, normally there should be 10 to 20 ml of this fluid. Okay, but if it is more than 10 or more than 20, then then we can call it as pleural effusion. So how do we collect the sample? There is a procedure for collecting the sample. It is called thoracentesis. Okay, we have to make the patient sit and bend forward. We can put a pillow to support the arms and the elbows of the patient. Okay, by making the patient sit forward, then the sample of pleural fluid is collected by the healthcare practitioner by using a syringe and a needle, and this syringe and needle is connected to a bag or a container. Okay, and this procedure is called thoracentesis. Okay, so thoracentesis is used to remove fluid, and it finds out the cause. Why the patient is having too much of serous fluid in the pleural space. Okay, why patient is having pleural effusion, or we want to detect the patient is having any other symptoms. Next, pleural fluid analysis. So this is the normal characteristics. Pleural fluid test and their value. First, appearance of pleural fluid is cloudy. Okay, the color is green or brown. RBC 903, nucleated cells 873, neutrophils 81%, lymphocytes 10%, monohistocytes 9%, serum amylase 138 international unit per liter, bilirubin 4.1 mg per dl, proteins 2.8 mg per dl, and serum protein is 5.4 mg per dl. Glucose level is 138 mg per dl in the pleural fluid. LDH 1706 international unit per liter. So this is the normal characteristics of pleural fluid analysis. Next, after pleural fluid analysis, we come to the peritoneal fluid analysis. Okay, or we call it as ascitic fluid analysis. So peritoneum, you know that it is a semi-permeable membrane. Okay, it lines the abdomen and the visceral cavity. It's like a curtain. Okay, it encloses and supports and lubricates the organs in the cavity. Now, if there's too much of fluid collection in the peritoneal sac, then in the peritoneum, then it is called as peritoneal effusion. Okay, or we call it as ascites. Okay, so ascites is the abnormal accumulation of fluid within the abdomen, within the peritoneum, and there is a method or a procedure where we take out this abnormal collection of fluid in the peritoneum, and this is called paracentesis. Okay, so paracentesis is the procedure where we take out the ascitic fluid. The peritoneum is important in osmoregulation. Number one, the passive diffusion of water and solute, and it maintains osmotic equilibrium with the blood and the lymph. So this is the position where we have to place the patient, that is the supine position. And the sample of peritoneal fluid is collected by the healthcare practitioner by using a needle, syringe, and this procedure is called paracentesis. So this is the we have to locate first the epidermis. Okay, the epidermis mark. From the epidermis mark, 2 centimeter, we try to pull it down using the fingers and we insert the needle. Okay, and directly into the peritoneum. And after taking the sample collection, then we release it. Okay, so this is the method we have to do. So the normal characteristics, okay, the gross appearance of peritoneal fluid. Number one, clear to pale yellow. Okay, so if the color is clear to pale yellow, then it is normal. Okay, so that is the normal color of the peritoneal fluid. Now, if this milk color, okay, the color of a milk, then we should suspect for malignant tumor, lymphoma, TB, parasitic infection, or hepatic cirrhosis. Now, if the color of the fluid is cloudy or turbid, okay, then we should suspect for peritonitis, primary bacterial infection, perforated bowel, appendicitis, and pancreatitis, or any strangulated or infarcted bowel, meaning that the intestines are strangulated. Next, if there is blood in the peritoneal fluid, then we should suspect for benign or malignant tumor or any hemorrhagic pancreatitis or perforated ulcer. So this is the characteristics of peritoneal fluid. So this is the biochemistry of paracentesis. Okay, the triglyceride, if it is elevated, then we should suspect for malignant tumor, lymphoma, TB, parasitic infection, hepatic cirrhosis. Now protein, the normal level is 0.3 to 4.0 gram per dl. Okay, if it is more than 4 grams per dl, then we should suspect for tuberculosis. Then glucose 7 to 10 is normal. If it is less than 6, then should suspect for TB and malignant tumor. Amylase 50% of serum level is normal. If it is more than 50%, then you should suspect for pancreatitis, pancreatic cirrhosis, pancreatic trauma, and intestinal strangulation. And last is alkaline phosphatase. So if it is very high, then you should suspect for small bowel perforation and strangulation. Next, we have the synovial fluid analysis. Synovial fluid, it is the fluid which is present in between the joints. Okay, it helps to diagnose the cause of joint inflammation. Each of the joints in the human will contain synovium. So in between the joints, okay, there will be the synovial fluid, and that is normal. This fluid is a thick liquid that lubricates the joint and allows for easy movement of the joint. In joint diseases like arthritis, the synovium of the joint is the main place where there is inflammation. So in arthritis, there is inflammation of the synovial fluid. Limited mobility in the joint, pain, stiffness, they are the signs of joint disorders. Joint inflammation is more common in older age. Okay, as the age increases, the joint inflammation is very common. So there are some disease conditions like arthritis, gout, infection, bleeding disorders. They can cause synovial fluid changes, and a sample of this fluid taken during the procedure is called arthrocentesis. So to check whether the normal fluid is normal or just inflamed, then the procedure where we take out or we draw the synovial fluid is called arthrocentesis. Okay, and this will help the doctor to identify or to detect if there's any disease condition of the bone. So this is a site for aspiration. So there is a lateral approach, medial approach, then this is the synovial cavity, this is the patella, okay, these are the fibula and the tibia. So in the knee, the needle is inserted horizontally, okay, at the medial or lateral margin of the patella, okay, in the lateral approach or the medial approach, and we'll insert a 20 gauge needle which is used for most joints. So it is a little bit thick, okay. So when we take out the synovial fluid, this is the color. The normal color is, you can see here, it is transparent, okay, clear transparent color. It is thick. If it is light yellow, then it is non-inflammatory. If it is, you can see this is like orange kind of color. This is inflammatory condition. If there's some blood tinge, then it is septic, and if it is red in color, then you consider it as hemorrhage. So this is the synovial fluid color and clarity. Then next we come to the pericardial fluid. The pericardial fluid is present in the pericardium. Okay, the heart is located within the protective membrane which is called the pericardium. So within the pericardium there is a fluid production, and we call it as the serous fluid. Normally only a small amount of fluid is present because of the rate of fluid production and absorption. Many abnormal conditions, okay, if there's any infection or any other abnormal conditions, then it will increase the fluid collection in the pericardium, and we call it as pericardial effusion. Specific tests are done to check whether it is a transudate or an exudate, okay, and the fluid is withdrawn from the pericardium by using a needle aspiration. So the procedure where we take out or we draw the sample from the pericardium layer is called pericardiocentesis. It is a therapeutic and diagnostic procedure in which the fluid is removed from the pericardium. That is the sac which surrounds the heart. And the health practitioner will remove 5 to 10 ml, okay, and it may increase stroke volume by 25 to 50%. So this is the analysis, the normal characteristics of pericardial fluid analysis. The pH of the pericardial fluid is 7.69, glucose 52 mg per dl, The normal total protein is 5.9 gram per dl. Fluid volume 8 to 10 ml. Uh, the uh, the cell count is 1465. Okay, the lymph 10. Um, the uh, the monocytes will be 7. Eosinophils 2. ANA titer is less than 80. Chromatoid factor unit per ml, it is 185. C reactive protein is 4.4 and CCP 1 to 2. Okay, so this is the pericardial fluid analysis. Next, coming to the wound discharge analysis. Okay, so a bacterial wound culture is a test that detects and identifies the bacteria which causes the infection. Okay, so this wound culture test, bacterial wound culture test, will help to identify which bacteria is responsible for infection. Okay, अगर any wound may become infected with bacteria. A culture will help to identify the infected bacteria that is causing the infection, and it helps the doctor to give which antibiotic. Okay, and therefore the healing will take place faster. Wounds may be special breaks, may be superficial breaks in the skin, such as scrapes, cuts, and scratches, or may involve deeper tissues such as incision, bites, punctures, or burns. So all these are considered as wounds. Okay, wound can be superficial wound or it can be deep wound. A culture is performed by collecting a sample of fluid or cells or tissue from the wound. Okay, so from the wound, we will try to take out a sample to check for the presence of bacteria, which bacteria is responsible for infection. Okay, the media encourages the growth of bacteria that may be present, allowing for further testing and identification. So there are types of wound drainage. Okay, so serous, it is a clean and watery. Okay, next purulent, it is thick, yellow, green, tan or brown in color. So the color of the the drainage. Okay, next it is sanguineous, means that it is bright red in color, indicative of active bleeding. Serosanguineous, it is pale red, watery mixture of serous and sanguineous. So this is the types of wound drainage. A gram stain is usually performed to help determine the type of bacteria. So a gram stain culture test will be able to help to identify which bacteria is responsible for the infection. The shape and color will also help to determine what other tests may be needed to perform to reduce the infection. Next, the indication. This is the indication. Okay, so this is a wound. It is slow to heal, heat, redness, and swelling at the site. There is tenderness and drainage of fluid or pus, and the patient will have fever. Okay, so how is the sample collected for testing the wound drainage? A sterile swab may be used to collect the cells or pus from a superficial wound site. So this is in the case of superficial wound, like cuts or scratches. Okay, so in such case, we will take a sterile swab and we will just just press it like this, and we will able to collect the cells or the pus. Lekin in case of deep wound, then we have to aspirate the fluid by using a syringe or a tissue biopsy, so that we will get the specimen. Okay, so that was about wound drainage analysis. Last we come to the gastric fluid analysis. This is the gastric juice. It is a colorless to grayish or yellowish watery fluid with low specific gravity. It is secreted by the surface of the epithelium, secreted by the gastric cells and the glands of the gastric tract. Okay, so that is the definition of gastric juice. Why do we perform gastric fluid analysis? Because the diagnosis of gastric disease, and it helps in assist in selection of therapy. Okay, in cases of peptic ulcer, okay, it will help us to help the doctors to to decide which therapy to be given to the patient. Number 2, gastric fluid analysis. It helps to measure the amount of acid which is being produced by the patient in case of peptic ulcer disease. Then it helps in diagnosing Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. Okay, it is a condition of gastric hypersecretion which is produced by gastrin secreting tumor of the pancreas. So there is gastric analysis and duodenal analysis. So let us see first of the gastric analysis. It is a measurement of HCl and pepsin content for evaluating gastric disorders or duodenal disorders. For example, the Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. Next, basal gastric secretion and gastric stimulation test is performed. For that, patient should be kept on NPO. Nothing should be given 12 hours before the test. Okay. Then we insert a NG tube so that we can take out or we can draw the sample from the stomach. The patient collection of the specimen. The patient must be in fasting or NPO 12 hours before the test. Contamination with saliva will neutralize the gastric acidity, therefore it should be prevented. The time specimen should be collected for the purpose of comparison. Then two types of gastric juice collection. Okay, so for collecting the gastric juice, there are two types of tubes. Okay, by using an evacuated tube. The first tube is called Levine tube. This tube is inserted in the nose, that is called the nasal intubation. And the second is Refus tube. Okay, or we call it, this is inserted in the mouth, that is by oral intubation. So there are two types of tubes where we can get the collection of gastric juice. Next, coming to the duodenum. That was about the stomach. Now we come to the duodenum. So as the chyme is being pushed into the duodenum, because of the function of the intestine, the pancreatic juices pH is 7.5 to 8.5, and the bile are also being secreted, okay, into the intestine. Hence, the duodenum is the site for many chemical breakdowns during digestion. So the duodenum is the place where the chemical breakdown takes place during the digestive process, and the pH is 7.5 to 8.5. Now, the chemical examination of duodenal contents. Examination of stimulated bile. The duodenal intubation is performed. Next, following the aspiration of the residual content, 50 to 100 ml of sterile 25% saturated MgSO4 is introduced into the duodenal tube. Okay, so first we will insert the tube, duodenal intubation. Okay, we will insert the tube to the duodenum. Then we will aspirate. Okay, we will take out 50 to 100 ml. Okay, after aspirating, then 50 to 100 ml of 25% MgSO4 will be inserted, or it will be given through the duodenal tube. Then after a minute or so, the MgSO4 and the duodenal contents are aspirated together. The collections are pooled and discarded until a yellow bile will appear. That is requiring about 2 to 10 ml. So the three fractions of the bile are subsequently collected in separate containers. A bile is the first to appear, which is light yellow and positive. So this is how we examine the duodenal contents. Then composition of duodenal contents, it consists of three, that is the bile. Okay, we all know that. Number two is the endocrine pancreatic secretion, and third is the intestinal secretion, which is mixed with the gastrin secretion. So these are the composition of duodenal contents. The pancreatic exocrine secretions, okay, which are responsible, which produces a lot of content in the duodenum. It exceeds 1500 ml per day in normal adult. It is colorless. It is clear in color, okay, and it is non-viscoid. It is alkaline solution. So that was about the duodenal analysis. Okay, so duodenal analysis and gastric analysis are under the gastric fluid analysis. Okay, so today we have done about the gastric fluid analysis, we have done about the wound discharge analysis, pericardial fluid analysis, synovial fluid analysis, peritoneal fluid analysis, the pleural effusion test analysis, the amniotic fluid analysis, the sweat chloride test. Okay, so these are some of the examination of body cavity fluid. So I hope this is clear to all. Thank you, class.